Here's someone I haven't talked about in a very long time. At a New Hampshire campaign event for Democratic presidential candidate Representative Dean Phillips on Thursday, former presidential candidate Andrew Yang claimed that if President Biden becomes the party's nominee, he will deliver to us Trump the sequel. Yang complimented Phillips' efforts to find a younger, new candidate to represent the Democratic Party in 2024 and said Phillips went to California Governor Gavin Newsom and Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer and urged them to run against Biden, but his efforts were unsuccessful. He criticized Democratic leaders who did not step forward and run despite the fact that Joe is down by 8 points in Georgia, down by 8 points in Michigan, states he won, down by 9 points in North Carolina, which is like a swing state. Like Joe Biden, who I supported last time, in my view, is going to deliver us to Trump the sequel. Yang continued, Dean Phillips saw this and said, you know what? I am going to do something about it. And Dean Phillips is the only one with the courage, the character, conviction to go against the grain, to go against a legion of followers in Washington, D.C., who would put their careers above their country and said, you know what? America deserves Americans deserve a choice. America deserves a choice in its leaders. Phillips announced in October that he would be running for president against Biden after previously signaling he would not do so. While he thinks Biden has done a spectacular job in the White House, Phillips has repeatedly called for a competitive primary instead of Biden running unopposed for nomination. The Minnesota Democrat has repeatedly stated that the 2024 election is about the future, and the country deserves better than the 2020 rematch between Biden and former President Trump, the likely Republican nominee. In a recent interview, Phillips said there is not one shred of evidence that Biden can overtake Trump in the upcoming election. At Thursday's Manchester, New Hampshire campaign event, Yang highlighted the 54-year-old's three-term lawmaker and said having someone younger in office address challenges such as artificial intelligence would help me sleep more soundly at night. He continued suggesting the Biden administration may be complacent in solving the country's problems because they think they are going to be in office either way. The event comes just days before Tuesday's New Hampshire primary. So, you know, I saw this interview with Phillips and Secular Talk that made me not really like the guy that much. He just seems too much in the pocket of the Israeli government, or I guess too pro-Israel for my taste. Um, but in spite of that, I do have to admit when Yang says that Phillips is courageous, there is some truth to that. Running against an incumbent president from your own party is honestly one of the things you can do to assure career suicide. Like, besides taking some extremely fringe position that is disliked by the entire country, um, you can't get any more pariah like in your decision making than doing what Dean is doing now. Even though I would say there's a part of me, and I'm gonna play devil's advocate. There's a part of me that also thinks this is motivated by a desire to just get out of Congress. Like, he's been there for 3 terms. You know, he's not really feeling like he's doing much. So he's like, all right, I want to retire. But before I retire, I'm gonna go out with a bang, or I guess a whimper if you look at the polling. Do I believe that Dean went to Newsom and Whitmer to get them to run? It's possible. I think that Newsom and Whitmer are people who would like to be president. Especially Newsom. And I said before, it's crazy to me that you can have a governor who has a state with over 100,000 homeless people, and he'd rather spend time debating the Florida governor who's running for president than actually addressing the issues affecting his state. But I digress. He's a weasel. Whitmer, I'm not as familiar with, but I do, I remember when she was on Biden's short list to be VP. So I'm sure those thoughts have stayed with her, in the several years since then. It's just hard to really. It's hard to know how much truth is in this stuff, because I do believe a competitive primary would benefit Biden, even if he were to, the other people didn't win, whatever. But at the same time, when I look at what Phillips said about, oh, I think Biden has done a spectacular job, he's doing the same stupid thing that Vivek did, where you have someone who wants to run against another person. And whenever you run against somebody else, you are implicitly saying, even if you don't directly say it, I would be a better insert office here than this person. So if I'm running against somebody for the House, I'd be a better representative than them. I'd be a better senator, better president, whatever. Just you can't try to run against somebody while at the same time compliment them. Oh, I think this person's been great. I think they've been terrific, because there's no point in voting for you if you think someone else was so spectacular and amazing. See, I really like Marianne Williamson's approach, because she'll often mention things that Biden has done that she likes, but then also bring it back to issues that she feels are not being addressed as much as they could be. Same thing with Cornel West. Phillips is not. I feel like part of the reason he's not resonating with voters, even if has an easier time getting attention from the media because he's a congressman, is that he just doesn't really stand for anything. He's kind of just this guy who, oh, I want Biden to have a competitive primary, but you're not doing anything to make it competitive. Yeah, you spend money, and yeah, you go on TV here and there, but if you really want that, you should actually go after him. Should I think he should have done what Williamson did, which was get in the race pretty early, like back in March. Before I have to remind myself, she actually got in the race before Biden even officially announced he was running, and from there go to Iowa, go to New Hampshire, talk to voters, explain what makes you different from the person that's already president. And I think if I truly believe that if his heart was really in it, he would do that, and he would probably be able to get a solid, I'd say 30% vote, because I think there are Democrats who genuinely do not want a Trump Biden rematch. Uh, and could be persuaded, along with some charismatic individual, making the case of like, hey, there are some good things Biden has done, but I also feel as though these things could be improved, and so I'm going to do it. I think if someone did that, they could play a very significant role in overturning the chances of a rematch. Now, to go to what Yang said about Trump the sequel, it's hard to say at this early stage. We haven't even gotten to the general election. There is still a chance. It's a slim one that Biden and Trump won't be the nominees. It's even more slim in Biden's case. But what I have to keep explaining and making the point of is that it's easy for left leaning people like myself to look and say Biden is going to lose. This is what Jenks says. But there's a lot of people who really despise Trump, who despise him, who would vote for a plank of wood over the man, who the criminal charges of are making him less resonant with um, some voters, with a lot of the ones in the middle. And I do think, along with an economy that is better than people would give it credit for being, um, Biden stands an okay chance of getting reelected. I think if he can hold through the storm and not look so decrepit, he has an all right chance of winning reelection. That's just what I see right now. In January, we're 10 months away, so I could be wrong, but I'm just going off of how it appears to me. I think he has a very decent, I'm going to say a 60% chance of being able to pull off a bid for a second term, especially if it's against Trump. Haley would give him more trouble, but I don't think, I so far she's not going to be the nominee, so it doesn't matter. But what does matter is being able to make the case to voters for why you're better than someone else. And I just don't think that. I think Yang is a good surrogate because he reminds people of UBI, and he had an exciting 2020 campaign. I covered it repeatedly. But when you look at the person he's being a surrogate for, I don't think he's an effective campaigner. Not Yang himself, but rather Phillips. And it's unfortunate because I like primaries. I like it when people have to actually work to get a term or to get a job. And it's not just handed to them because, oh, this person endorsed me. Everybody get out the way for this person. I like it when you actually have spirited competitions. But the Democrats just don't want that. They don't. This is why they tried to cancel their primaries. This is why they're not having any debates. This is why many of the prominent ones who could run and actually possibly pose a challenge are waiting until 2028. Trust me, in 2028, you're going to see Klobuchar and Warren dust themselves off. Harris is going to dust herself off. She's the only one who actually has a good reason to not run because she's already on the ticket. But you're going to see the three of them again. You're going to see Newsom, Whitmer, Booker, Gillibrand. All these people are going to suddenly pop up out of the woodworks and reappear and try to challenge each other to be the next Democratic nominee. And really, what you're seeing here is basically because like 2016 on the Democratic side was so weird to me. You had all these Democrats that just wouldn't run because they were so scared, pissless of Hillary. You're basically seeing the same thing this year, but it's like this extremely unique circumstance where you've got the oldest president ever, and a lot of people are kind of like turned off by the idea of him running against the person he beat before because factors like the virus aren't around anymore. So they're worried either that something will happen to him or that he just can't win because it's not the same. 2024 is the same as 2020. And you have all these young up and coming Democrats who just won't budge. So it takes a spiritual advisor who's never held office and a congressman who, I mean, he's been in office for a few years, but I don't think has done anything of any like great distinguishment. I certainly didn't know who he was before this primary. And a TV host who, I'm just being honest, Jank, his whole thing is he's just trying to get some more views for TYT. But it's like how is it that out of this giant party with hundreds of congressmen and senators, you only get 3 people to run, and 2 of them have never even held office before? Interesting. So, I like the premise of Phillips' campaign. I like what Yang had to say about everything, but the Democrats just don't care. And we live in an era where even with more technology and it'd be easier to figure out stuff because you can just, things are on your fingertips, there's still a lot of people who don't know who Marianne Williamson is or who Dean Phillips is or who Cenk Uygur is. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like we're going to have enough time to really raise their profiles to the degree that they would need to be to mount really serious challenges to Biden. It's not something I'm happy about. I tried for months with Williamson. It is what it is.